Okay, so what we're talking about this chapter is the midpoint formula. And so midpoint formula is just what's in the middle, and it's just the averages. And so because what I'm doing is I have 2 points, and I'm finding the middle of those points, I'm taking the average of those points. And remember, average is you add up all the numbers and you divide by how many numbers. Well, I'm adding some x's and I'm adding y's, and so that's why I divide by 2. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to label our points. And remember, that means that we're going to label x1, y1, x2, y2. And then what we're going to do is we're going to plug our numbers into our formula right here. And then we're going to figure out what the sum is on the top. A common mistake is people will try to do all this as one step in the calculator, and the calculator is not going to do your order of operations correctly. So what you do is you just figure out the answer on the top, and then you're going to divide by 2, okay? And that's what the next step is, to divide or reduce. When you're done, your answer is a point, an ordered pair, so you need to write it as parentheses. Okay, so let's look at this first problem. So we have all these coordinates, and so we need to find the midpoint of AB. So it is helpful if you rewrite them. So A is 2, 4, oh, that's ugly. 2, 4, and B is 6, 8. I don't write up here because sometimes you use the points multiple times and it can get confusing. Take the 4 or 5 seconds it takes to actually rewrite it. So now I'm going to label. This 2 is the first x I see, so it's x1. This 4 is the first y I see, so this is y1. And then x2 and y2. Okay, so now I plug it into my formula. And if you notice, x's are on top of the first fraction, and then y's are on top of the second fraction. We never mix our x's and y's. Okay, so now my first x is 2, plus my second x is 6, all divided by 2. I'm going to put a comma. There's a comma in the formula. And then now I do my y's. My first y is 4, my second y is 8, and all over 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually find the sum. Well, the top here is 8 over 2 and 12 over 2. And then the last thing I do is I have to reduce. 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 12 divided by 2 is 6. So my midpoint is 4, 6. All right, same thing for number 2. I'm going to start off by writing my points. So B is at 6, 8, and C is at -3, 5. Okay, what I would like you guys to do is I would like you to label your points and plug in. And once you think you have it plugged in, press play. Okay, so you should have had x1, y1, x2, y2. And so it would have been 6 plus -3 over 2, and 8 plus 5 over 2. Well, 6 plus -3 is 3 over 2. And 8 plus 5 is 13 over 2. So you can actually leave the answers like this, but if you don't like them like this, you prefer to see decimals, you can also do 3 divided by 2, which is 1.5, and 13 divided by 2, which is 6.5. I will accept either of those answers. Okay? It just depends on what you want to do. And again, I couldn't actually reduce the fraction, so I can simplify by making them decimals. Okay, so last one, same thing. I'm going to label my points. DC is the same as CD. I'm just going to go in order. So -3, 5. And D is -7, -1. So we're going to label the points. X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Okay, I'd like you to do this whole problem, and when you think you have it, press play. Okay, so you should have done -3 plus -7 over 2, 5 plus -1 over 2, a -3 and a -7 is a -10 over 2, and 5 plus a negative 4 is a positive 4 over 2. Both of those can reduce, and so my answer is negative 5, comma 2. So it's not that hard. It's a pretty easy formula to use, but I will tell you where people are going to make a mistake is when they do not take the time to label. Label your points. This does not take that much time, and it usually cuts down 90% of errors. So remember these steps. Label your points, plug in your values, find your answers on the top, and then reduce or divide.